Are we in now? Uh, all right. Well, mm, butอะไรนะ
เอากาแฟเหรอ
ไม่เป็นไรไม่เป็นไรเอาแต่ไม่เป็นไร
ไม่เป็นไรใช่ไหม
อ่ะไม่เป็นไร
ทำไมอยากให้ฉัน
อ่ะ
ได้ไหม
ตอนนี้กำลังบรรทุกฮะ
เอากาแฟเหรอ
ใช่ไม่เอาที่นี่มีที่นี่ไม่อร่อยที่บ้านไม่อร่อยเลย
ก็คุณบอกว่าให้ฉันไปซื้อ
ใช่ไปถ้าคุณมีเวลาได้ไหมโอเคถ้าคุณไม่เป็นไร All right, you guys. Anyway, I guess we're on now. Finally, my God. Okay, I'm even on YouTube. I can't believe YouTube let us back in. How nice of them. Yep. Okay. So here we are. Okay, cool. Now let's get back to where we were. All right. So yeah. Okay. Once again. Merry Christmas. Happy Hanukkah. Happy today. Let's just be happy today. We're here. We're all here. We're all alive. I had some. I'm sure, like everyone has people passing on, and I see my fair share of people passing on, and this week particularly, there was a couple people, even someone in my family, somebody very close to me. She passed, and um, I'm really happy for her. She was suffering quite a bit, so um, yeah. And I think a lot of times our tears and our sadness is because of our loss, but not theirs. And we all have to remember that that's a doorway. Death is a doorway, and you go through it, and we're all going to go there eventually. And we don't want it to happen until it has to. And I totally get that. I, for one, am not ready at all. So I get it. I get it. I get it. I get it. But anyway, um, you know, but anyway, so that's that. But it's also a birthday. What's crazy about this universe is simultaneously there's a supernova exploding, right? And hundreds of galaxies are produced. And at the same time, at the center of medium-sized and large-sized galaxies are black holes where things get sucked in and go into this no longer existing. So that's the universe on a very grand cosmic scale. And then, down here in the biosphere, here we are, and the same kind of thing. Every second, organisms are being born and organisms are passing and all that, and it's just this flux and flux and flux of energy and change and all that sort of thing. And so, one thing we all need to do, really, and I think it's probably the most important lesson of life, is to find that part of us that is eternal, that aspect of us that is not going to pass. One of the things I remember seeing in um, at a Buddhist ceremony where they had the monks had spent months and months drawing in sand these beautiful mandalas, these beautiful, really like beautiful artwork. They do it, and then the ceremony would be everyone would gather and they'd have the big sand box with the beautiful mandala, and they'd turn a fan on and they'd watch it blow away. And it was their way of remembering that all things like this are going to pass. All worldly things, all material things are going to pass. And it's not that they're going out, it's not that they're ending, they're just going through transformation. So kind of keep in mind, this is a concept that's really important, I think. And that is, number one, there are two aspects of existence. Number one is that which is perpetual, which is what we were just talking about, perpetual motion, perpetual change, the physical universe continually changing, and the fundamental dynamic of its that's its fundamental dynamic. So there's that. And then there's another aspect of existence called eternal, eternally not changing, eternity. And so both are real, both exist. And I think the human being, the human predicament is that here we are with both aspects, right? We have the eternal, um, which is the presence of God in our being that gives us, which is our being. And then there's this that changes. And listen, this face is not the face I saw when I first started looking in mirrors. And it changed like every year. And I remember for a long time it was getting better, 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 better. And then, so when the mirror is no longer your friend, things change. But anyway, we can't get hung up on that. We can't get hung up on that. We really need to do that. And that's what prayer and meditation are about. Prayer and meditation are tapping into that part of us that didn't begin and won't end and is eternal. And why do we need to know that? Because this will end. This will end. All physical phenomena have three parts: a beginning, a middle, and an end. And that which is eternal has none of that. It never began, it never will end. And so we should and we can easily take solace and take heart and be grateful and joyful that we are eternal. Um, these bodies will change. They'll go back to dust. Not back to dust, back to earth. But anyway, so it's something to remember. And today's going to be a special day for the whole world because it's not only religious holidays, but it's also on a year our annual period where it's the shortest day of the year. We just passed it 4 days ago here, 3 days ago there. Just passed it, the shortest day of the year, longest day, shortest day, longest night. And it's going to change. It's going to be spring. Will it be equal? And then it's going to be June, where it's going to again be, now we have the longest day and the shortest night. And then it's going to be what, October? Is it October? Yeah, October. Or they'll be equal again. So that's it. It's perpetually changing. And and a lot of us don't like change. I love it. I love change. I hate the same stuff. If I know what I'm going to have, if I know what I'm going to be doing at 3:30 on Tuesday and 4:30, my life is, I'm like, I don't like that. One of the reasons I love to travel is because with travel, you can't really predict the next moment. You're especially in a new culture and everything, and you don't have all the assumptions that they have in their culture. So things aren't, you don't really know what's going to happen. So that's the beauty of traveling and seeing new things is that your agendas are suggestions perhaps, but they're not what happens. But here, when you live in the place wherever you live and you got your job and you've got all this stuff and I got to get up, I got to get the kids up, all that sort of thing. And a lot of people feel comfortable in it. They love predictability. I love the opposite. I love unpredictability. For me, that is, I don't know why. I love it. But anyway, so that was that. I just want to say, so the webinar on parasites, as I said, parasites and cancer, is open for registration now. It'll be 6:30 p.m. on the 28th of this month, just 4 or 5 days from now. 3 days. Well, 4 days for me, 3 days for you. And for a lot of you. And anyway, I'm going to talk about parasites. It's going to be about 3 hours. We're going to have time at the end for questions. I'll answer the questions directly, but there's so much misunderstandings and real deep concerns about parasites, and rightly so. These guys are. So I'll go over it. I'm going to have a PowerPoint, and it's going to be a lot of information. Now, one person some people have asked, is this going to be for practitioners or for the lay public? And both. It's going to have enough science that a practitioner of any kind will be satisfied. We'll get that information. But at the same time, I'm going to explain it in words that we all understand, because there's no sense using jargon. As we all know, each profession has their own jargon, and what are you learning when you go to school, if you go to law school, you're learning the jargon of law, the words of law. If you go to medical school, you're learning that. If you go to IT school, you're learning the jargon of computers. Plumbing, you're learning that. Yes, they have practical aspects and manual things that you have to do, but in general, it's language, right? And so there's nothing that happens in medicine. There's nothing that happens in the body that cannot be easily understood if you just explain it. It's usually plumbing, electricity, things like that. And there's some fundamental laws of thermodynamics, like entropy and things like that. And there's diffusion and things like that, which is part of the whole entropy thing. But anyway, it should be good. I'm looking forward to doing it. I'm looking forward to finally getting that out there. It'll be available for those who buy it, who join the webinar. It's $33. If you join the webinar, you can ask the questions, and then later on you'll get a copy of it to review at home. And if you don't have an opportunity to join it, you can get it later. So it'll be available because and maybe it's just part one. Maybe we're going to go beyond this. The other thing is, people are asking me where do I get all of these medications. So now after this seminar, after this webinar, you're gonna know pretty much what you need to take. And then the question is, where do I get it? So we're going to talk about that too. We're going to explore that. All right. Now, again, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Rumble, Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, and the website, my website at drlodi.com, are places you can be watching this thing live every week. Okay. And that's at Dr. Thomas Lodi for all of them, except for Twitter or X. It's at Dr. Thomas Lodi, MD. And as you all know, MD stands for mythology doctor, right? That's it. Why? Because doctors are trained in what? The myth of disease. Yeah, it's a myth. And I've explained it in the past, and I'll explain it again forever. Okay, now, so that's that. All right, you guys. I hope as many people you can join, because what I like to do is take enough time to answer questions, live questions. Because a lot of times I can't answer live questions. Okay. Yes. Happy Hanukkah. Happy everything, you guys. Happy that we're alive today, and our blessings to those that have left and they're on to a new world, a new dimension, a new part of their journey. And I'll tell you something. When my mom was dying, I was at the hospital, and and I saw that she was dying, and I knew she had hung on really long. I think just for me, because I'm an only son, and so there's a real strong attachment with mothers and only sons and only daughters. Doesn't matter if male or female. So I realized that I had to let her know that she did a wonderful, incredible job, and it's time to go, and it's okay. She did her job. She paid her dues. She lived her karma, and it's fine. And I'm going to be fine. You did a good job. And I say goodbye. So, that sometimes that's what we have to do. Give our loved ones permission, or let them go. Let them feel okay about it. Anyway, that's that. Now, let's go to some questions. Okay, you guys? Right there. Do you need a biopsy to diagnose interstitial cystitis? Not really. I mean, you could. Okay, but I'm sorry. I just taken a real quick question offline here, but interstitial cystitis just means that you have inflammation of your bladder, and it's not being caused by a microorganism. So when they do a urinalysis, they don't find bacteria, they don't find funguses, they don't find anything like that, and they keep doing so. But you're having the symptoms of bladder pain, and when you urinate, it hurts and things like that. And then so pretty much if it's a sterile urinary tract infection, then it's actually usually what they call interstitial cystitis, which means the cells between these cells that are actually function as bladder, so they're like the connective tissue and all that stuff, is inflamed. It's an interstitial cystitis. So they say you need a biopsy. No, you don't need biopsies. I know doctors love to take chunks out of people so that they can send it to the pathologist so the pathologist can get paid. Remember, the doctors belong to a union. They don't know it. They don't even say it. They wouldn't discuss it. I'm not. You're in a union. You're in the union, and like when you're gonna construct a house, right? You got to make sure the plumbers get it, the carpenters get it, the electricians. Everybody gets their piece, right? And concrete, whatever. Everybody gets their piece. Well, it's the same with medicine. Why do we do mammograms? Are mammograms important? No. Are mammograms the opposite of important? Are mammograms deadly? Yeah. Yeah. Okay. But you have to do them. Oh, but this is the profession that cares about us? Is that what the four-letter word was? Care, health, care. Well, if you think about it long enough, and I mean long enough is almost 5 seconds. If you think about it long enough, you realize that it's a complete lie. It's the opposite of the truth. Okay, you don't need to take a piece of something and slice it up and put it under a microscope and have this guy who was trained to look at microscopes and is called a pathologist and he did his residency and they say, this is whatever he says, she says, all they're saying is the description of the tissue. Okay, it's liver tissue. Oh, it's a gland. But it's got some abnormalities that make it a CFC. What's a CFC? A CFC is what they call what the Rockefellers and his buddies call cancer. We don't call it that because it's an ugly word unless you're talking to somebody born end of June up to about the 21st of July. Then it's a beautiful word because they're beautiful people. But that's it. Forget that. Okay, I mean, forget it. Other than that, it means nothing else. All right. So these chronically fermenting cells have a different kind of microscopic anatomy, microscopic shape, and that's what they are. Okay, so that's what we're looking at. And so you got to pay all this extra money to the pathologist for him to put that name on it. Big deal. You put that name on it, and it still doesn't help you. Why doesn't it help you? Because if I say this is adenocarcinoma, invasive adenocarcinoma, whatever. What's another one? A squamous cell carcinoma. What's another one? Lobular carcinoma. What am I saying? I'm saying it's if it's ductal carcinoma, it started in the duct. If it's lobular, it started in one of the little sacs of a gland. If it's adenocarcinoma, that means it started in a gland. I mean, a lot of these are repeating the same things. They just love all these words. If you've ever read a medical research report, you could probably distill that which is important from any research down to like a paragraph. Okay, they just love to be loquacious. They love to say all these words. They get and the more they can say, and the smarter they sound. And it's such nonsense. Okay. Anyway, so you don't need a biopsy. Okay, because it's not going to help you. Well, if I know the origin of, if I know what type of CFC it is, then it'll change my therapy. No, not really. Not really. Oh, okay. Let's say you're right, Mr. Oncologist, Miss Oncologist. Let's say you're right. Or let's say I go along with it. Okay. So now it is invasive ductal carcinoma or it's just ductal carcinoma in situ. What are you going to do? I got it. I know what you're going to do. You're going to do surgery, chemo, and radiation in either case. Well, what if it's lobular carcinoma? Same thing. Okay, so now what if it's the only one they don't cut? One of the only ones they don't cut are lymphomas, because it's all the lymph nodes. You couldn't do it. So anyway, that's anyway. But they need the name. They need the histological, which just means microscopic description, anatomy. The histological description, and they call it a diagnosis. They put it onto their sales algorithm, and their sales algorithm tells them which products and services they can sell. Okay, and so that and they want to make sure that everybody gets their fair share, because they know if you are diagnosed, have a spell put on you. If you're diagnosed with a particular type CFC, they're not types. It's where there's only location. They're all the same type. Huh? Okay. Location. Beginning in a lobule or beginning in a duct, beginning in a gland is not a type. It's a location. It's where it started. What started? Fermentation, a chronically fermenting cell. Now, do chronically fermenting cells, are they different here or there? No. Well, then why is this then different than that one? Because if it's in a liver, then it's got characteristics of liver. If it's in a kidney, it's got characteristics of a kidney. But the actual fundamental biology of CFCs is the same. Period. But you know what? They love to make it complicated. Why do they make it complicated? Why do they make it complicated? They make it complicated so you'll pay them more, and you think they're smart, and they think they're smart. And plus somebody's getting research and all that sort of thing. So anyway, it's the same thing. Whatever you got, they're going to do. Surgery, chemo, radiation, and now the revolution in oncology is immuno-oncology or oncoimmunology. Oh, is it a revolution? What do you mean a revolution? What is immuno-oncology? What are these? Well, pretty much checkpoint inhibitors. Oh my gosh, that sounds pretty smart. What's a checkpoint inhibitor? And then so you get into that. And you find out that these are just other ways of delivering a poison. It's another justification for to deliver a poison. Do they work? No. Well, actually, when you look at the data of checkpoint inhibitors, and I've got it, you get anywhere from, I guess, 3 up to, I think I've seen as high as 8 months more. More of what? Being alive, still breathing. If that's what we're going to call living, is just breathing. I mean, if you're sitting in an ICU and you've got tubes all over you and you can't eat and you can't, and you're in pain and you're getting drugs, is that being alive? I guess it's being alive. Is that what we're looking for? No. What are we looking for? We're looking to be restored to health, because health is optimal function of the organism. That means I can laugh, I can sing, I can dance, I can play, I can swim, I can run, I can listen to music, I can make love, all those things. That's being alive. Okay, that's why we are in the flesh. We're in the flesh for a few reasons, but one of them is to enjoy the flesh, to feel it and experience it. Okay, so most important question, when you walk into your doctor's office, and if your doctor doesn't ask you, first of all, how are you feeling? Are you sleeping well? How's your appetite? Are you eating? Can't eat? What happens when you can't eat? Do you get like full too real quickly, or is it just that you have no appetite? Do you get nauseous? Let's find out how you feel. How are your bowel movements? Are you able to have bowel movements? How frequent? Do you have energy? Are you finding yourself laughing once in a while? Are you laughing a lot? Or did you have fun lately? These are the questions that matter. Then at the end, you can say, okay, well, let's look at some of the numbers of your blood tests or your imaging report or something like that. Let's talk about that and see how that relates. Okay, see if we can find any correlations there and work with it. And that's what we'll do. But when you walk in and the first thing they do is go, looking at your chart here, I see that the potassium is right, and the it's like, that's the time you just walk out. Okay, because you're dealing with a robot. They don't know they're robots. Anyway, so what's the next question? Where can I get Lugol tablets for my thyroid? How long do I need to be off my levothyroxine before getting a base temperature to see my average prior to starting Lugos? I currently take 50 micrograms and have been taking it since October of 2020. Okay, these are good questions. So everybody understands what Lugol's is. Lugol's, it's with an L, by the way, Lugol. Lugol's is a solution that was made, I think, about 170 years ago, and it's a combination of molecular iodine and iodide in the form usually of potassium iodide. And so when people are thinking of iodine, they usually, when they say they need more iodine, they usually put in potassium iodide. They don't talk about the molecular iodine, but both are necessary for healthy functioning. So therefore, Lugol, I think he was a chemist or something, uh, which predates the pharmacist. Pharmacists used to be chemists. And it's got a combination of iodide with the iodine, usually much more iodide than iodine. Anyway, it's in a good proportion, a good ratio, and it's been used for a long time. Now they have it actually in tablet form, and there's one other brand called Iodoral, Iodoral, and that is same thing, but you can get that only in tablets. But the liquid's good if you want to paint it on lesions, if you got a basal cell carcinoma, if you have a squamous cell carcinoma, if you have melanoma, things like that. Yeah. Even if you've had like if you had a mastectomy, and then you find out later you've got these really hard dermal implants of probably tumor in there. Paint that every day with the Lugols; they go away. Anyway, Lugols is good stuff. Okay, so now, so you're currently on Thyrox, and by the way, most doctors, including the specialists, the endocrinologists, who sorry if there's any endocrinologists out there. I'm gonna offend you, and you know, what can I say? I always offend somebody, so might as well be the endocrinologist today. Um, the physicians that I've met, who know the least about hormones are the endocrinologists. Oh, what? Yes. What? And I don't know why. I don't get it, because first of all, they don't even consider a lot of the facts about the thyroid gland. The thyroid gland makes T4 and T3 and T2 and T1, but only T3 and T4 matter. T3 is the active one, T4 is inactive. Okay, it circulates. That's why we make 80% T4, 20% T3, so the T3 is used immediately. And when a cell needs a T3, it grabs a T4 and pulls off one of the iodines. Okay, yeah, it's all very, very simple. So they put everybody on T4, which is kind of, should I say it? Should I say it? Okay, stupid. Why is that stupid? Because in order for the cells to use it, they've got to have the deiodinase enzyme working really well. And one of the things it requires is selenium. And what do we know since 1915 to 18? There was a report put out by the some governmental office in 1918, 1920, whatever it was, saying that, talking about how incredibly depleted our soils are of selenium due to farming practices, etc. Now, that was in the 20s. Now, why does soil need to have it? Because soil is where plants hang out, live, have their being, and they suck up these minerals and they attach them to either amino acids or other organic acids. And then when you eat the plant, you can then get the selenium. So one form of selenium is called selenomethionine, right? Which is selenium and methionine. Methionine is an amino acid. But anyway, so Brazil nuts, 4 Brazil nuts, 200 micrograms of selenium, pretty good way to get it. It's bioavailable, meaning you'll be able to absorb it, use it. Okay, anyway, so they give her T4. They put this person on T4, Stephanie. And so now you don't have to, Stephanie, to be off it for a while. Now, I don't know if you're comfortable or not. You think you have enough, but my recommendation to everybody is let's get on a natural one, a T3 and a T4. Okay, so the levothyroxine is T4. So there's another synthetic one, which is synthetic. Another synthetic one for the T3 is called cytomel. And so some people will put them on a combination of levothyroxine and cytomel, or you can get the glandulars, which is what they call Westroid or Armor, and then there's some from bovine sources, which is cows, and there's even some from sheep, yes. So and they come in a natural T4, T3. Okay, so what you can do, Stephanie, is you're taking the T4, you've been taking it for a long time, continue taking it, and do your basal body temperatures. Under the armpit, axillary temperature, let it sit there for a minute, then click it, turn it on, write it down. 5 days, take the average, it means add them all 5 up and divide by 5. If you're doing Fahrenheit and it's less than 97.8, or if you're doing centigrade, it's less than 36.8, then you don't have enough thyroid. You're hypothyroid. You're subclinically, meaning you don't know it. It's not obvious. Hypothyroid. So what do you got to do? So now we say, okay, so so that 50 wasn't working with your T4. So what are we going to do? Why don't we take something that has a 75 of T4 and some T3 in it? So, okay, so we could always go online to Thyrovance, and ends with a Z, Thyrovance, and we can get it. We can order it and get a 75. Take it and take that on an empty stomach and do that for about 10 days. And while you're taking it, then while you continue to take it, you do your basal body temperatures again. They're still low. You need a second one, afternoon, empty stomach. All right. Do that for 10 days, 14 days. Then while you're still taking both of them, I've done this many times. I've gone through this many times. Anyway, you can keep titrating up and down with your temperature and getting it online. So you don't have to go visit doctors or any other practitioner. You're free from that. Your thyroid you can take care of it. So that's cool. That's cool. So do that. You go up on it. I hope I answered the question. Now, another question from Patty, and this says, can I get rid of lupus? How to determine the root cause of it? I was diagnosed at 20 years old. I'm now 53. My mother died at age 40 due to lupus, so they said. This was 39 years ago. I do not take medication for it. My mom became more sick after she started taking medicine for lupus, and I vowed I will never take them because I think that's what killed her so fast. I tend to agree with you, Patty, very much so. Now, for those of you that don't know lupus, you may have heard of it. It's a lupus is a what is called an autoimmune condition. Now, autoimmune conditions is where they were told that the body, being as stupid as it is, you remember the body was, I don't know who made these bodies again? Oh, that's right, the divine intelligence. But the divine intelligence made a mistake and said, under certain circumstances, the body's going to attack itself. I don't think so. That never happens. Okay. It never happens. When does it happen? Never. Okay. There's always something that we're missing. We don't see why the immune system's doing what it does. It doesn't just say, it's not, it doesn't do that. It's made by God. It can only do what is absolutely necessary. Okay. So it's doing what's necessary. Okay. So anyway, lupus stands for systemic lupus erythematosus, which are a really fancy name. Systemic means what? Oh, in the whole system. Okay. Lupus, what does that mean? It comes from Latin word for wolf. I think that's the genus. Remember a cartoon, Loopy the Loop or whatever, Loopy? Anyway, I forget it. And erythematosus. Erythema is a medical word meaning red. They couldn't have said red, right? Because no, you don't want to say red. Everybody will know what that means. Okay. Tosis, erythematosus. Oh my God, what does that mean? Nothing. It just means a condition of. Okay, so so wait a minute. It's something in my whole body They get the lupus because why? Because the erythema, the redness, a lot of times goes like this. It's called a butterfly rash. And they call it, they think it looks like a wolf. I mean, whatever, listen, you got to forgive doctors and scientists because they're just, whatever. So yeah, okay. So that's what it is. Now, the thing about lupus, okay, now they made it up. Okay. Now, is that it involves systemic means it's all over. So, and it causes inflammation, really severe, terrible inflammation. So you can get lupus cerebritis, which means your brain is inflamed. Lupus nephritis, which means the kidneys are inflamed. And then there's, if your joints are, it's an arthritis. The skin means it's a dermatitis. So it causes all these different itises. Now, one of the amazing things about this and other autoimmune or other what they call diseases that are not diseases is that they don't really exist, sort of. So what they've done is they've come up with about I guess 17 different manifestations of it, right? And so what they've decided is this is great. The criteria for diagnosing means you have to have at least one clinical. So you have to have 4 criteria, right? And one has to be a clinical criteria, and one has to be an immunological criterion. Okay. So what are the clinical criteria? Well, acute cutaneous lupus. Okay, that's a rash. Okay, cutaneous. Chronic cutaneous lupus. That's another one. Oral ulcer of the palate. Okay. Can't get that from anything else. Non-scarring alopecia. Alopecia is their word for loss of hair, which they can't say loss of hair because you'll know what it means, so they use the word alopecia. Non-scarring. All right, great. Okay. Synovitis. Oh my God, what is synovitis? SYN always refers to joint, the lining of joints. Okay. Itis means inflammation. Okay. So synovitis involving 2 or more joints, characterized by swelling or effusion or tenderness. Well, that's what inflammation is, guy. Serositis. That means the serosal membrane is inflamed. Okay. Renal, kidney. Neurological, brain. Hemolytic anemia. That means your red blood cells are bursting. Leukopenia, meaning your white blood cells are low, or thrombocytopenia, meaning your platelets are low. So if you can get any 4 or like 3 of those, and then one of the immunological means your ANA, which is your blood test, or your anti-dsDNA, if it's above, and then your anti-Smith or anti-SM, and there's a couple other low complement. So you can get any one of those and 3 of those, then we can call it this. Well, there's no this. These are just something else on a bigger, something else is going on. And it's manifesting in different ways. And you're going to call it this name as if that helped. So now you call it lupus. Well, what are you going to treat it with if you call it lupus? Let's say you figured it out. You got the diagnosis of lupus. So what are we going to do with it? Well, I get well, I guess drugs of choice are Plaquenil, and also they use azithromycin, which is like a Z-Pak. You've ever had a Z-Pak? Yeah, okay. And what is a Plaquenil? It's also called hydroxychloroquine. All right, so those seem to make it calm down. It's not helping. I mean, we didn't figure out what it is. We still don't know what it is, but that'll make it calm down, right? And what else do they use besides those? Well, their favorite go-to drug is high doses of prednisolone or prednisone, which are steroids, which just slam down the immune system so it's not working. Because, well, we don't know why it's doing what it's doing, but we're going to just shut it off. That's a great idea. So they shut it off and you go, I feel better. I go, yeah. You do feel better. Yeah. You shut it off. So now whatever was causing that to happen is still happening, but now it's not being dealt with by the immune system. So is it getting better? How? Impossible. It's not getting better. It can't get better. It doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Okay, yeah. So it doesn't matter. Okay, now, so I want to tell you something on a broader, another way to let's look at the immune system, and this applies to people with CFCs as well. There are two poles of the immune system, basically, the way humans look at it. Okay, they call them the Th1 and the Th2. Okay, remember, T cells can be broadly categorized as helper cells and effector cells that go do something, and the helper cells help the effector cells. Okay, so helper cells are called T4s, and the effector cells are called T8s. So we're just dealing now with the helper cells. So we can call them T helper cell 1, Th1, or T helper cells 2, Th2. Okay. So now they're kind of, these things are always modulating, right? They're because what do the Th1s do? They produce things like gamma interferon, interleukin 2, tumor necrosis factor beta, all of these things which activate macrophages, activate the immune system, and they basically, it's a pro-inflammatory situation. Okay, so you want Th1 to be actually, you want your immune system to be more pushing towards the Th1 most of the time, because you want to be able to deal with things like microorganisms that get in you, and CFCs, because it'll get rid of the CFCs, etc. Now, on the other hand, the Th2 cells, they produce like interleukin 4, 5, 10, 13, I think, and they which help produce antibodies that are made by the B cells. Okay, and they also inhibit certain macrophage functions. Okay, another interesting thing about Th2 cells is that they are the ones that predominate during parasitic infections like helminths, the worms. So if you have intestinal worms, your Th2 is going to be high. All right, and you have a Th2 dominance, and that's very interesting. So, and in fact, that's one of the reasons that they don't discuss with regards to um, how parasites can be related to CFCs. But I mean, it's not, you don't have to be a genius to figure that out. Well, wait a minute. We need Th1 to get rid of CFCs. If the parasites cause us to be a high Th2, we have low Th1. Could that be a problem? Don't ask the question. We're not thinking about that. We're thinking about cyclophosphamide and paclitaxel, and we want to burn it. Oh, yeah. Okay. All right. You get in trouble for thinking in medical school. You really do. You really do. Unless you can back it up. Unless you can tell the professor, well, in 1983, in the New England Journal of Medicine, they found blah, blah, blah. And then in 1997, back in the Journal of the American Medical. If you can do all that, oh my God, you get patted on the back, you get promoted to chief resident, and blah, blah, blah. Okay, so now, so that's basically the immune system. So so this applies to both CFCs, and it applies to what they call autoimmune. Now, so if you've got an autoimmune, you're probably, and by the way, if something interesting is that pregnancy shifts the immune system towards Th2s. And it seems that for some reason, we often find Hashimoto's thyroiditis, thyroiditis. And a guy named Hashimoto was involved, so we call it by his name. But there's no it. Okay. Now, but Hashimoto's it means you've got a thyroiditis that's resulting in low thyroid output. Okay. And there are antibodies. Oh no. Yeah. Remember, antibodies are produced by what? by B cells, and what stimulates them are the chemicals, the cytokines that are produced by the Th2 response. Remember that? Yeah, you remember that. Okay. So anyway, so what happens? That gets suppressed. That after pregnancy, it goes back, and then you wind up with something called Hashimoto's. Okay, what they call Hashimoto's. So what I thought of, well, why? Okay, so besides the Plaquenil and the azithromycin, and then the uh, corticosteroids, right, which wipe you out. I mean, they're dangerous, 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 dangerous. You can't just stop them; you'll die if you've been on them for a while. You've got to wean off them because they've completely suppressed your adrenal glands. Yes, that's right. Right. Oh, by the way, if a doctor causes a condition that they call a disease, you know what they say the cause is? It's called iatrogenic. Why do they use that word? Why don't they just say the doctor caused it? They don't want to say the doctor caused it. Oh. What if you get an infection that you could only get from being in the hospital? Uh, so we'll call it a hospital infection. No. We'll call it a nosocomial infection. Nosocomial. Why? Because nobody knows what we're talking about. Anyway, so they give you these. And then finally, if the steroids aren't enough, or you gotten really too sick because you turn into you get overweight, and you get really bad shape, and you have no immunity, and it's just horrible. Then they use just what they call immunosuppressive drugs. Yep, exactly what it sounds like. Immunosuppressive. Let's suppress the immune system. That's a great idea. You know how we're going to fix you? We're going to suppress your immune system. I got to tell you, man. I mean, listen. In order to go through medical school, you got to I guess you just have to accept what they're doing. You can't think about it. So anyway, so the immunosuppressive drugs like Imuran, I don't know if you've ever heard of Imuran, or cyclophosphamide, which is also a chemotherapy. Immunosuppressive. Yeah. Anyways. But I got an idea. Why don't we do this? Are there any natural substances that can, let's say, stimulate Th1? So if I've got an autoimmune and I'm Th2 too high, how do I stimulate Th1? And the opposite, if I'm not having a good immune response to my CFCs, how can I stimulate Th1? Well, guess what stimulates Th2s? Okay, now I want you to keep this a secret, because we're not supposed to think coffee is good, but caffeine. Oh my God. Green tea extract. Oh my God. A white willow bark. Lycopene. What is lycopene? Lycopene is actually one of the it's like a carotenoid. It's like a vitamin A, and you can find them in lots of fruits, including and plants, including tomatoes. And they're famous for being in tomatoes. And people say, well, if you cook the tomato long enough, the longer you simmer the tomato, the more lycopene you get. Okay, so what? Well, therefore, that's why you should cook tomatoes. I see. So to get more lycopene. Yeah. Okay, so lycopene is really important, right? Right. Well, how come God didn't make any lycopene trees? God? There's no God. It's all science, son. It's all science. So why didn't nature make a lycopene tree? Okay. Anyway, you don't ask them questions, because they don't have the answer. It'll just make you frustrated. Anyway, so lycopene, really good. You can also find them in strawberries and cherries and stuff like that. Yeah. Okay. Then there's resveratrol, which we all heard of, which is in grape skin, peanuts, cocoa, things like that, right? Pycnogenol, which again another one of those kinds of things. And curcumin, the famous curcumin from turmeric, you know about that. Genistein, which comes from soybeans. Oh my God, soybeans are bad for you. No, they are not bad for you. But what are soybeans? good for you, healthy for you, unless they're GMO, of course. Um, and uh, and then quercetin. Quercetin is another flavonoid. So anyway, these are natural substances found in plants, and you can use them to stimulate your Th2 if you had a Th2 deficit. Now, if you wanted to stimulate your Th1 because of lupus or something like that, or you're not having a good response with your CFCs, then you can use astragalus, which we all know we've heard of that for our adrenal glands as well. Echinacea, you've heard of that. Then of course the medicinal mushrooms like maitake and shiitake and all that, the things that have beta glucan in it. The glycyrrhizia, which is glycyrrhizia is what is probably the most active compound in licorice, and it's used for a lot of things. It helps with hepatitis, helps with a lot of things. And then there's Panax ginseng, chlorella, grapeseed extract. Yeah, all of those things stimulate Th1. Now, well, wait a minute. You don't want it too high of Th1 because you'll have all these problems. You don't want all too high of Th2. What you want is it to be modulating, and you want it to be able to adapt. That's how it was made. And they don't exist. There is no Th1, Th2 in reality. Humans made those categories up so they could talk about it. But they need to be modulating, just like everything in our body. And we've talked about that before. We talked about HIF1 alpha and ascorbates. We've talked about estrogen and progesterone. There's something that turns it on, and there's an off, on and off, on and off. And it's done all the time by the nanosecond, so that there's an appropriate response. So how do we get that? What are we talking about? We're talking about restoring balance to the body. That's what we want to do. We want to restore balance to the body. How do we restore balance to the body? By living a balanced life, by eating healthy, by going to bed early, by moving around, by the way, you guys, by the way, I just made the first podcast in a series of podcasts with Darren Sherbane. Darren Sherbane is our kinesiologist. Amazing guy. And he asked anyone who's been to our clinic. I haven't met anyone who doesn't love him. Anyway, he's a physiologist and who specialized in one aspect of physiology called muscles or kinesiology. And he teaches us how to move and why we should move. And so it's going to be released, hopefully, probably, I guess, we recorded it yesterday, probably a couple days, 3 days. But look for it. It's really good. It's how little things just a few little things you can do at home. You don't have to go to a gym to like double, triple, and even 6 times your natural killer cell function, right? So those are the kind of things we're going to talk about. So please be sure you can watch that. Yeah. Okay. Now, so you got to restore balance to the body, and that's what we want to do. All the things that we're going to do, right? However, I would also take the astragalus, the echinacea, glycyrrhizia, the ginseng. You can take these things. Yeah. Now, what is the question? What is the next question here? Thyroid. Oh, here's parasite questions. I don't know if I should, because we're going to have a whole webinar. Excuse me. We're going to have a whole webinar in 3 or 4 days on this. But okay, you mentioned a drug called prazoguano. So I asked my doctor, but he couldn't find it, and I don't know the spelling. I'm not even sure if it's a drug. Yes, I think what you're trying to say is praziquantel. 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 Tull or tull? Either EL or AL. Anyway, it gets liver flukes and other kinds of blood flukes. But anyway, okay, another one. Fenbendazole by Merck is taken widely by humans. It's also Petmore has a dewormer online with a little bit of praziquantel, a little bit of parental pomaway. I know you recommend these with ivermectin, fenbendazole, Is it okay to purchase and take the above chewable tablets for the protocol? Yeah, 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 yeah. You can take it, yeah, and the veterinary form is the same. You just want to be able to get the amounts that we were talking about. Yeah, but sure, any reputable place where you can get it, because it doesn't matter if it's made uh, for animals or humans. It's actually, you probably, I don't know, trust it more if it's made for animals. Anyway, I've seen an extensive list. Okay, we're gonna go through all this, you guys. Okay, I promise you, I'm gonna try to get everything done. Um, my son is suffering from Asperger's, leaky gut, and I suspect parasites. This is Diane, and he has extreme mental anguish, psychosis. Can I give him fenbendazole 1 dose with these conditions? Any prep needed? No, no, really. These are all very safe medications, and you'll look if you find the packages, and you even go online. There are pediatric doses, and you can get, and especially if you get it in the animal, where they can give a little bit of like a paste or something like that. But if he's got Asperger, now Asperger's doesn't exist. They made it up, and they're calling it the autism spectrum disorders. What is autism? Never exists before they started giving those what do we call them again? Again, begins with the V for vendetta. V for vendetta. Anyway, there's a they give these shots to kids. And by the way, what's really interesting about these shots is that now I always had the idea that, well, if you go to a doctor and there's something wrong with you, he's going to give you a shot to fix it, even though it doesn't work. But I mean, that was kind of the thing I grew. And then I found out, well, no, we're going to have a well baby check, and we're going to have a well child check, huh? Why do I have to take my kid to a guy or a lady with a white coat if there's nothing wrong? Ah, because they want to make sure there's going to be something wrong later on. No, that's not the claim, but anyway, that's the truth. So anyway, so the situation is, so not more than likely, 100% assurity, your son had some injections, and the leaky gut is going to come from, leaky gut comes from eating too much or too frequently or non-food, and not having the right microbiome in there too, because there's one particular bacteria called Akkermansia whose job it is. They were trained. They went to training. They went to um, bowel wall repair school. Yeah, and they're like experts in bowel wall repair. Akkermansia. But you got to get that. You've got to. You got to. I would do some sort of really good juice cleanse with him, because remember, juice has all the amino acids, protein has all the carbs and all the phytonutrients and chelated minerals. The only thing it doesn't have is fat and fiber, which you'll give him at another time. But just I would do several day juice cleanse, get his colon, make sure he's got his bowels are just flowing, he's peeing a lot, and all that sort of thing. Then he probably could benefit. Definitely, you got to find a pediatrician who's practices integrative, or what they call functional medicine, and get some chelation, get some of those. I don't know, aluminum, mercury, yeah, out of it. Get a lot of those things out, and could go for get rid of the parasites. Check out his mouth. Get him to a biological dentist. Yeah, there's all yes. All you can help him out a lot. So yeah. Okay, so okay, we're gonna go on. We got to get past. I'm sorry, we got to get past parasites. Well, here's NMQ Apple. Asks the question: when doing a parasite protocol with fungal elimination, 3 weeks on, 1 week off, for how many cycles? It varies from person to person. 6 cycles, I would say, is minimum. may have to repeat that in the following year. It could be 8 cycles, 9 cycles. It depends on why you're doing it. Depends on how much it is. But what I didn't, yeah. So yeah, I mean, it really depends. So you've got to have, there's no way of knowing. Unfortunately, you cannot diagnose. I hate that word. You cannot find these guys too easily. So you've got to use something like an acupuncture meridian test or some other sort of electrodermal screening, so you can find out in a subtle way the energy is involved, right? Because that's how we can find out, right? Okay. So anyway, okay. So let's go back. We got HPV. Brain fog after COVID. I just had it for a second time, and the brain fog is terrible. I don't think I've fully recovered from the first round, and now I'm currently sick with it again. And the brain fog is so frustrating, among other symptoms. But the brain fog makes it difficult to complete tasks at work. I need my mental clarity back. Okay, this is for Logan. Logan, this is a story. This is a thing that I'm not really. It's not safe to talk about it online, but I don't think that's what's going on. Because I don't. Anyway, I just the whole story is not the story that I know to be happening. Did something get inside of you? Perhaps. Are you being? I don't know where you live. Are you being exposed to Haji? Haji. Now, Ha in Thai, in the Thai language, means 5. So are you being exposed to Haji and a lot of it? What other kinds of exposures are you getting with EMF? Have you done a cleanse? What kind of food do you eat? How much sleep do you get? Are your hormones balanced? Are you a woman or man? Logan, I don't know. So if you're a woman, how are your menstrual cycles? If you're a man, how's your libido? How's your erectile function? And then there's there are so many other things that can be this. Nowadays, everybody the moment we get any kind of illness, it becomes COVID, right? You got a bad knee. Oh, I got a COVID knee. My knee is just ever since I had the COVID, my knee. So everybody we've got. If it was 5 years ago, we wouldn't be saying that, right? But now this has become exactly what they want it to become. So I don't think that's what's happening. I think we need to look at your whole life, what you're eating, when you're sleeping, if you're taking medications, what you're being exposed to in terms of electromagnetic frequencies, that kind of thing. How about your relationships? Are you married? Do you have any toxic relationships, either at home or at work, or in between on the way home? Anyway, okay, dental. This is Mohammed. Do biological dentists read 3D cone beam scans differently from normal dentists? If a dentist who only uses 3D beam scan told the patient that their scan is clear, how likely is it that they missed something? Thank you. Okay, so yeah, not only biological dentists read it, other dentists do as well, but they don't. Remember, regular dentists are not taught about cavitations, which is basically osteonecrosis, which means what? Osteo, bone, necrosis, dead. So dead bone. So it's usually hollow. So when you look at it on the scan, it's kind of an empty space. Okay. And in there, it's not empty, it's full of microorganisms. But since the regular dentists don't even know that those exist, they don't see them. So I wouldn't trust a cone beam read by a regular dentist. And also, most biological dentists, there's only a small percentage, just like there's only a small percentage of integrative doctors, of functional doctors that really know what they're doing, that really studied it and really care. Okay. And they're not just giving you the latest and most popular thing because it's popular, like NAD plus, or whatever. I'm not saying it's not good. It is good, but if why are you doing it? So, and where is that other thing? Where is that? Where? Excuse me 1 second. Where is that? Oh my God. What? I don't know. So I would make sure your biological dentist. Well, you got to ask them a few things. How long have they been doing it? How long have they been reading it? What criteria do they use to determine whether or not there's a cavitation? Because they got a score when they're reading it. They got a score showing, how what the density, the bone density is versus that. So it really, really depends on it. And then you got to make sure. First of all, when you're looking for a biological dentist, and you get their website, look under services, and if they put in root canals, they're not biological dentists. If they try to save root canals, they're not biological dentists. If they put in titanium implants, they're not biological dentists. If they put in any other metal in the mouth, they're not biological dentists. If they don't use ozone, they're not biological dentists. If they don't use platelet-rich fibrin, they're not biological dentists. Some do and some don't use lasers. But there are certain things that they have to be doing on, they use a lot of other things. I'm not one, so I don't know. But those are the fundamentals. Yeah. So the answer is I don't know your situation, Mohammed. However, if you could get it to me, I could get it read by someone I know is real. Probably the best, not probably, the best, yeah, biological dentist in the world. Okay, so here we have a question by Lisa, and it says, there's a March 16th, 2016 article published by UCSF, that's University of California at San Francisco, scientists, research by Jeff Norris. It is titled Triple Negative Breast Cancer Depends on Fat as Fuel, Research Shows. It states that in most cases, it states that in most cases might be treatable by drugs that target fat metabolism. I can't find any other articles on this. This contradicts Dr. Thomas Seyfried of Boston University. He states that all cancers rely on glucose and glutamine, and therefore his study on treatment with press pulse therapy, which is keto diet, and glutamine suppression with DON, glutamine inhibitor. The study was published online. The study states that MYC expression was abnormally elevated. They found an unusual abundance of fatty acid oxidation metabolites, indicating that triple negative breast cancer cells may be oxidizing fat to satisfy their energy needs. Is there further evidence that triple negative breast cancer depends on fat as fuel? And do we need to adapt our diets if we have triple negative? Lisa, very good question, and I'm sure it's very, very confusing. Okay, very confusing. Okay, now, okay, so Thomas Seyfried is right. This other guy is almost right. So, what's the story? Okay, what's the story? So, what he's saying here, what you just said, is that the MYC, which is an oncogene, the expression of it is abnormally high in triple negative, right? Well, that turns out to be true. But guess what? It's also true by the fact, keep in mind that more than 70% of all CFCs everywhere have a high MYC. They have the high expression of the MIC MYC. All. Well, what about breast? Okay, well, and by the way, when it has and if anything has a high MYC, MYC, then they say it's got a poor prognosis, unfavorable survival. But that, you know what? They say those things, but none of the CFCs anywhere have a very favorable prognosis if you do their damaging treatments. I'm telling you, none of them. Oh, well, he's only got this or she's only got that, so therefore, no, they're all a bummer. They're all a bummer. But okay, now, but triple negative gets all of this press because why? Because they don't have two things. They don't have something to knock out the estrogen, and they don't have something to knock out the HER2, right? Now, they say triple negative is the worst, but you know what the second worst is? Triple positive. Oh my God. But when you're triple positive and your progesterone receptor is positive, what do they give you for that? Nothing. Why? Because they don't have a drug. Oh, so yes, doctor, what do I do about that? Nah, don't worry about it. Anyway, let me go on from there. Okay. Now, they find that the MYC is hyperexpressed in breast, not just triple negative, lung, ovarian, prostate, and even others. I'm just, at least in those. Now, what does it do for the ER positive? Okay, so we were talking about triple negative, ER positive, and I'll be getting to your answer, I promise. Okay, so when we say something is an estrogen receptor positive, we all remember that there's two estrogen receptors. There's alpha and beta, and we know that when alpha is stimulated, it makes things grow, and beta makes things shrink. Okay, which organs will have and our estrogen receptors, and why is that relevant? Well, lungs, stomach, pancreas, bladder, prostate, breasts, ovaries, colon. Okay, is that relevant? Yeah. Well, HER2 is just breast, right? No, colon. There are other ones because HER2 is just another name for epidermal growth factors, and we have 5 of them, and they're how cells grow and all that. It's just that the number 2 one gets it's expressed more in certain situations. Okay, so like HER2 positive. Okay, so anyway, so what does ER alpha do? What does MYC have to do with that? Well, we know that ER alpha, right, is it's involved in it, right? But in both the beginning, it's involved with fueling the development, progression, and all that, right? Okay, so what is MYC? Okay, MYC is actually a downstream effector of ER alpha. Okay, and the MYC actually is it contains some, it's got an element in there that affects the growth of these CRCs. So it's always upregulated at ER alpha positive breast CFCs. Okay, and there's a article published 2018, February. Title is Targeting Oncogenic MYC as a Strategy for Cancer Treatment. Okay, that's what it's called. Okay, so read that article. There's other articles too. I can talk to you more about it. But so anyway, so when MYC is upregulated in the ER alpha estrogen receptor positive, not the triple negative, okay, it induces the tumors to grow. Okay, yeah. Now, The other thing, I just want to read you one other thing here. He wrote, gene expression analysis of estrogen treated MYC-induced cancer cells showed that half the estrogen regulated genes were regulated by MYC. The estrogen genes were regulated by MYC, indicating that a significant component of estrogen-induced mitogenesis, which means turning into CFCs, is mediated by MYC. Okay, a significant component of the estrogen effect is by MYC. So why am I telling you all this stuff? Okay, now and then, one of the other big ones I want to tell you is prostate. Not prostate, pancreatic, and as we all know, pancreatic has a bad reputation, and that's because of its location again. But anyway, so the MYC, the MYC oncoprotein, is involved in the development of not only pancreatic but liver and breast, and then ovarian. Okay. Now, what does it do? This is important because you asked, we're referring to the fatty acid oxidation and eating fats, right? Okay. So now, what is very interesting about what MYC does is that it increases glucose uptake and accelerates lactate production instead of using normal mitochondria or the Krebs cycle, right? So what is a CFC? Basically, fundamentally, it is a cell that has something called the Warburg effect. The Warburg effect is that the cell goes through fermentation instead of going through the mitochondria. 85% of its energy is produced through fermentation rather than mitochondria in the presence of oxygen or the absence of oxygen. So it's called aerobic glycolysis. Glycolysis is fermentation, okay? Whereas if I run up the street and I start getting pain in my legs, I've exceeded my ability to bring in oxygen, my aerobic capacity, so I start to have anaerobic, no oxygen, glycolysis. Two different things, okay? So anyway, it turns out that MYC promotes glucose uptake. I'm not talking about fatty acids, I'm talking about glucose, all right? Now, glutamine is necessary not only for fuel, but it also is necessary for how cells, even our healthy cells, make amino acids, how they make nucleic acids, which are genetic material. So anyway, it's necessary for that. And so in order for them to grow and they need all these things, it's going to have glutamine. All right. Well, so because basically glutamine, it guarantees the survival of the cell. Okay. Now, the glutamine promotes the gene that causes the enzyme that makes glutamine. Right? It's called glutamine synthase. Needs MYC. So MYC brings in glucose, turns on glutamine also. That's what it's doing. All right? Okay. Okay, so now it also, so in other words, cells that have MYC overproduction, right, which is what you're talking about, triple negative, they have what's called an overexpression. They're addicted to glucose and glutamine compared to normal cells. Okay? And they call them, glutamine addicted cells. In other words, they have to have glutamine. Now, do they also, the one thing that's interesting about the MYC promoter is that it also allows the use of fatty acid oxidation. So how does that work? I didn't think they could eat fats. Well, what they do is they break it down into something called acetyl-CoA, which is, one of the original molecules. When glucose goes into the cell, and then it turns into pyruvate, goes into the nucleus or into the mitochondria, and the pyruvate can become acetyl-CoA. So if you can break down the fat and put it in there, you can still get that energy production. Okay, so It does that. So, so in other words, it has that effect as well. So if we just block that, let's say this guy's right, and we just block the fat, well, it's already going to cause it to be glutamine addicted. It's going to it's going to upregulate the whole fermentation pathway. So it's still working. It's not going to do it. So, and what can I say? The oncogenic MIC, it actually increases on the cell surface the transport order of glutamine. Okay, so in other words, that's not true. And the reason you don't see a lot of studies on that, because that's not sufficient at all, and you don't have to adapt your diet, okay, to that. Now, what do you need instead? Now, this is a very, very important subject, and I would like everyone to listen, regardless of where you have CFCs originated, and that is has to do with energy. Energy is life. When you run out of energy, it's over. The more energy you have, the healthier you are. Right? Children are running, they can't stop. They're really healthy, right? You see someone who's older, and one of the main things you notice, other than body shape and all that sort of thing, is the fact that they don't have as much energy, right? So anyway, so energy is fundamental. Now, energy in biological systems is electrons, right? EKGs, EEGs, EMGs. Okay, it looks at the electrical fingerprint, the electrical output of a cell, of a tissue, and by looking at the quality of that electrical output, you can tell whether or not it's a healthy organ or not. So I can look at your EKG, and just by looking at the EKG, I can know, a lot about your heart. Not everything, but anyway, and when the line is flat, it's over, right? Okay. So now it's estimated that every cell needs approximately every second, always, at least 1 billion ATP, at least. So to maintain that happening, it's got to be making energy all the time. All right. Well, the total amount of energy in a cell can also be measured as voltage, and it's minus 22 millivolts. It's like a normal cell. A cell that gets inflamed, that gets banged, it has having acute inflammation, has to get up and hold 50 millivolts. But a cell that's chronically inflamed, like a CFC or any chronic condition, needs to get up to 70 millivolts and hold it. Well, how does it hold in the charge? How does it hold in all those electrons? It does it by having a good, what they call a capacitor. Capacitor is two conductors separated by an insulator, and we have that in electronic equipment. We also have a biological capacitor, which is our membranes of our cells, right? Biphospholipid, right? Our membranes are made of a fat phosphate. They go like this. This side is phosphate, this side is phosphate, which are conductors, and the middle is an insulator. So the quality of the fat of our cells determines our ability to hold voltage. Now, moreover, the quality and strength of the mitochondrial membrane, fat, correlates with longevity in all creatures. Once again, the quality of the fat, the strength of the fat in the mitochondria correlates with longevity. Of course, that's not how they say it in the study. They said the peroxidizability index is inversely proportional to longevity of the mitochondrial membrane to longevity. Right, they gotta say it backwards. Same thing. Anyway, that's what I'm trying. That's what I want. The point I'm trying to make is that, yeah, there's some lipid metabolism, some fat metabolism, But that's not all mixed doing. Mixed doing a lot of other things, and it's not just in triple negative. It's in estrogen receptor positive. Okay, it's in pancreatic. So that was a way oversimplification that the person made, right? And you know, so basically, the MYC is one of the master regulators of the metabolism of a cell. In other words, how the cell is going to get energy and all that sort of thing. Okay. All right. So now let's see what the next question is. I high fat diet, high healthy fat diet, flaxseed, 2 tablespoons ground every day, put into a nut milk, and then you can put in whatever you can, like put some blended spinach or whatever you want, blueberries. Get those flax seeds and do up to 6 tablespoons of chia seeds. You'll get all of your amino acids, and you'll get your fatty acids. You'll get soluble protein. Do all that. Avocados, coconut oil. Okay. Now, where are we now? Okay, so I'm trying. This is from Carolina Caltriona. I'm trying to heal a large breast tumor with lymph involvement completely naturally. What do you think about the Budwig quark, cottage cheese, and flax, along with a diet of fresh, raw, pressed juices and fruits and vegetables? If one cannot afford oxygen therapy and finding it difficult to raise their pH. The Budwig is great. The only thing I don't like about the cottage cheese is that it's made from dairy and it's got casein, and casein is a protein that's carcinogenic. So I would just say do the flax seeds, like I said, is good. I wouldn't use the oil. I use the actual seeds because you get the oil and you get the important other ingredients. And I would grind up 2 to 3 tablespoons, and as I said, put them in a nut milk. The reason she used cottage cheese and the Budwig diet is she thought you could get better absorption, but you can get better absorption if you're having any kind of fat. And you're going to do the other way you want fat is through chia seeds. You got to get 6 tablespoons a day. Okay, in a nut milk, let it soak 2, 3, 4 hours, and then eat it, and it's fantastic. Add blueberries, whatever you want. Get a lot of that, so you don't need that. And yes, you want to make green juices, cucumber, celery, spinach, kale, or if you want bok choy or whatever you want. But you use the celery and the cucumber just to get volumes of water. You want to have at least one cruciferous, so kale's a good one. You could use arugula. You could use broccoli, and then put some lemon and then apple. So you got to make it taste good. Okay, taste good. If it's got to be a little sweeter, do it. It's okay, not a big deal. Do it. Get it. Drink a lot. Drink 3. Do a juice cleanse first. Okay, by drinking 3-4 liters a day. Don't eat. Do this for 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 5 weeks, 6 weeks, as long as you can, and you can. And when you're done, eat 100% uncooked food. Make sure it's plant. You can eat uncooked animals, but yeah, you get it, right? Anyway, so yeah, and you can't afford a lot of the therapies. I know it's very expensive to get all these treatments, and you don't need it. Then you need to go to bed early, and you need to start moving around and stuff like that. Okay. Now, yeah, so this is from Mandy Welch, and it's natural aromatase inhibitors for breast health, DIM, calcium glutarate, broccoli sprout extract, myomin, ground flaxseed. I would love to take only one or two of the best natural alternatives. AI, so many pills and options. Yeah. So, in this case, you don't really have to take the pills. You can take 2 handfuls of broccoli sprouts, which has got the equivalent of like 2 pounds of broccoli. Put it in your smoothie and you got a drink right there. Grind it up. It got to be ground up to be activated. And then drink your smoothie. And then put some more on your salad. A flaxseed smoothie, like I told you about. Yeah, do that. Yeah, you don't have to necessarily take any more pills for that. Remember, when uh, the chemicals that are in the broccoli get turned into isothiocyanates, and you're eating them because you either chewed them up or you ground them first in something, and then they get into the acidity of your stomach. They turned into diindolmethane, which is DIM. Okay, so you're going to get all that stuff, and the flaxseed is actually going to down-regulate your alpha receptors, which are the ones that get stimulated, make things grow, and it binds to beta. And then you also want to be eating lots of soy. So have miso, have edamame, have tempeh, tofu. So where are we now? Let's go to, we got to go over here. All right, just a really quick question here is on brain. What is the best way to deal with brain CFCs? Also epithelial sarcoma in hip on a 24-year-old. All right. The same. I mean, everybody, all of these things, please remember, these are not different types or anything like that. They began in different places. If it begins in the epithelium of of a bone or something, it's called a sarcoma. If that same thing happened in a gland, it would be called a carcinoma. Uh, and the brain, is it starting in the white matter? Is it a glioma or what is it? Anyway, always brain, always you've got to go to the best biological dentist in the world and make sure there are no cavitations, no root canals, no metals, and all ozone. You got that. That's absolute. Then get rid of all parasites, get rid of all toxins, clean out everything. Colon, drink juices, do a multiple week juice cleanse. This also goes for the 24-year-old with the sarcoma. You got to do all of those things. And then you eat only foods that are going to be turned into healthy human flesh and blood. Okay. And that turns out to be plants with a 60% amino fats. Okay. And then 15-20% of the plant. Yeah, and then the rest you can have. It's hard, but you can try to get more amino acids. But that's why that's why the what do you call it? The chia seeds are so important because you get a lot of amino acids, and then you want because you want to get otherwise just eating plants they're half they're pretty much carb and amino acid is what they are, which are protein. Oh my God, you guys! I didn't realize how late it was. Whoa! Well, let me do one more. Wow. Would you be willing to look at my father's case? He has CFCs of the brain, liver, lung, pelvis, lung, and spine. I would like to hear your thoughts. Alva. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what the primary is, but yeah, we definitely need to speak. Many people have this similar situation, so please get in touch with me. Okay, so Robert, you a friend of yours was treated for severe worm infestation by me, and then he recommended you to me, and you have chronic diverticulitis. Okay, your American doctors do not know why. They okay. You can leave out the word why. You just say American doctors do not know. You could use the word anything. So come on. Sorry if I offend you guys, doctors, but come on, come on. If you haven't realized that you need to be doing integrative therapies by now, and you're still doing the other, then I've got to question what you either like are one of those people that doesn't need to be satisfied in life, because you can't possibly be satisfied with the work you're doing. You might be satisfied with the money you're making, but you know you're not helping anybody unless you're a surgeon. There are, yeah, working in an ER, yeah, you can be satisfied. ICU, you either, yeah, there's some acute things we can really good at. Orthopedic surgeons must be satisfied. Yeah, well, I'm talking about anything else. Okay, so yeah, so sure, diverticulitis, yes, diet and diet and diet and cleansing, and then probiotics, fecal transplants. But diverticulitis is a condition that results from eating improperly. Okay, you've got to just do your cleanses, get back, and start eating real human food, and it'll go away. But the itis is the inflammation, meaning that you've had it for a while, it gets inflamed and all that stuff. You need a good, thorough cleanse with juices. I'd say 6 weeks, right? And then do some colonics. You got to work on your liver. There's a lot of things to do. So, Robert, get in touch with me, okay? So, oh my, here we go. Well, you know what? I never had a chance to get you guys. Wow, there's so many I didn't get to today. I was so sorry. Anyway, it's late now, and I didn't even realize it. And and most of it because it's my fault. I couldn't get on early. I apologize a million times, and I'll never be good at this. Can't believe it. So anyway, Sawadee Kap. Have a great holiday, everyone, and I'll see you next week because I'll be here. I mean, I'll be here. And then if you're on holiday, you can watch it another time. Don't forget the parasite thing. It's coming up on, I think, most of your people's Wednesday, my Thursday. Is that it? Well, anyway, 28th, 6:30 Eastern Standard Time. So be there and let's do the parasite dance, okay? All right. Aloha, sawadee kap. So we're going to end that one.